Signals are a very important part of any system that's out there. The better your signals, the better your ability to uh, pick the proper point to enter or to exit the trade. And you get good signals with good indicators. And that's one of the reasons that makes DTVB so effective. Uh, I made my first trade in 2007. We're now 10 years later, and here in 2017, we have a system that is extremely effective based on those indicators. But those indicators were completed probably about 4 or 5 years ago. And the rest of this time has been spent developing patterns and conditions and verifying those patterns with conditions so that whatever we convey on the website has got a level of accuracy to it that is reasonably good, if not very good. And so the example that I've got here that I'm going to show you is of signals with low peaks, and you'll understand that when I start here. On the green vertical line day, it is June 26th, 2017. And we're in the symbol TOPS, T-O-P-S. And on the red vertical line day, that is June 21st, and it closed at $92. And on the green vertical line day, it closed at $20. So we had a $70 drop in 3 days. Actually, you might say in 2 days, because it closed on this day. In 2 days, it closed at $24 from a high close of $92.25. So that is just really significant. But I want you to know that there were numerous signals ahead of this drop that told us that it was really going to be big. And I'll start in the trend chart here, and I'm going to expand this a little bit. And as you can see, we've got a few different things going on. We happen to have a trend red 3-day high M pattern that is up touching the trend yellow line. So basically what we've got is a high M pattern, which is a peak pattern, and typically that pattern will be, or the minimum that pattern can be, is a 2-day pattern with a down up pattern like a BOC pattern. This pattern here is down up up, and we refer to it as a 3-day high M pattern, and it looks like a M all the same. It is, however, the only indicator basically in a high M pattern to speak of. You have the power pink that's somewhat related to a high M pattern, but it's not easy to see in any of the other indicator lines. And so that condition exists. Keep in mind it's a double pattern, and by that we mean we have a high M pattern. It's also up touching the trend yellow line, which is a second pattern. And when you have two patterns with the same indicator lines, you have much more force than you do if you just have, like if this high M pattern was just highest and sticking out way above any of the other lines. So that is significant. The other critical or very important factor is that this high M pattern is under zero. It's not on a peak, and if you think about it, what you're seeing is market pressures going up that have no ability to go up. they are hitting their peak under zero. I mean, trend red in this right high M peak is at minus 35. It's hit its peak at minus 35. And so that's significant. You also have a trend gray pattern that is in a low angle up, and that low angle is on the first day in trend gray is at 8.8, and on the red vertical line trend gray is at 11.1, and so it goes up about 2.5 points in a low angle up. But again, what's critical is that it is going up. We call it a post when it's a low angle up on a peak. We call it if this same thing, like this green vertical line is like a low angle bucket, we would call it. It goes down and then it has a low angle to it. And so the green vertical line is a trend gray low angle bucket. And you can define it more if you know it looks like it's a low angle down bucket. Okay, now because the trend gray is a low angle up on a peak and it is extremely close to zero, indicating there is very little power that would cause it to go up. I mean, it's reached its peak. A low angle up on a post is telling you that next day it's going down. The other thing is the same thing is true with your power in your power chart. Power Zion happens to be highest, and it is in a low angle down. It is divergent to the power 4. The yellow, pink, white, and blue lines are going up, and Zion is going down. And Zion is down at -1 or at minus 0.99. And so it's highest at a minus number. Again, telling us that it's going down. But what we really identify with is that all the power lines are under zero, telling us that it's much easier to go down. That is telling us that the price is going down. And that was the other point that I was going to make, is that when your power lines are under zero, it is much easier for you to get a good downward movement. It doesn't mean it's going to go down. It just means that it's easy for it to go down. Just like if power green and orange are traveling above zero, slightly above zero, and they're moving with green above orange, means they're moving slightly up. It's real easy for that stock to gap up because it's going in the right direction and it's above zero. So you have in the power chart, you have a significant condition in that you normally see power Zion divergent with the power 4, blue, pink, white, and yellow, from the perspective that Zion is under power orange and the power 4 are above power orange. That there's technically, as we describe it, there is no divergence in this particular case. Except we have obviously directional divergence between Zion and the power 4, but we don't have a technical location divergence. The main divergence between Zion and the power 4 is when the two are separated by the power orange. A secondary divergence is when the two are separated by the zero line. And we almost have that, but not quite. But even though we don't have it, it's real close, and in essence it really qualifies as a divergent position in its ability or lack of ability to go up. Over in the swing chart, we have swing pink in a low angle up, swing Zion in a low angle down. We have swing pink highest, and also, again, just like I've said before, swing pink 2 days ago made a really strong movement up. It went from down here, swing pink was at minus 1.6. The next day it was at 0.00. And then on the red vertical line day, swing pink is at 0.2. Now, keep in mind, that's not 2 or 3. This is 0.2. So it's probably 10 times under what it normally might be at. And so its swing pink is just over 0, and it's on a peak, and so that's telling us that there's just a really strong movement down. It's easier to see in the trend chart for most people, and by that I mean back here 3 days ago you have you have zip green at 65. The next day zip green is at 66. So zip green is meeting its peak at 66. And it is not hard for zip green to hit 100. And so remember, zip green is your indicator line that tracks your buyers in and out of the stock, or really it tracks the trades. So it's basically telling us that there's not a lot of trades going on, because there's more than average because we're above 50, but there's not a significant amount of trades that are going on. And so that is indicative. 3 days ago, that is indicative of things going down. Trend red comes up a little bit higher the following day, and trend red. Zip red comes up to 74 the day after, and on the red vertical line day, zip red is at 75. And so it's a low angle up on the zip red, on the red vertical line, it's a low angle up. And again, that's telling us that is a next day down. Keep in mind, this is not a red-green peak. You always have red before green. That's just the way the rule is. You don't have a red-green peak. Red-green peak patterns are reversal down patterns, and they'll appear in 1 day and 2 day peaks. When they have rounded tops like both of these have, they're usually not indicative of what we might see as normal. They can be just like what you see here, abnormal and abnormally strong because of the influence that they had. When that happens, you usually have zip Zion under 50, but most importantly, you have the zip yellow line is really low. And if you're not familiar with it, zip yellow, when it's traveling under 5, you are in a really strong downtrend. And that's what the case is here for the last 10 or 15, 20, 30 days, it looks like. And so it took a little bit of a bump up, but it's obviously going right back down. And now there's one other thing that I'll make you aware of, and that is a DIFF. This is a difference in the indicator line lengths, and the difference is basically a divergent condition. And that there's many ways to measure diff. What we're doing here, for example, zip red on the day before the red vertical line is 74.03. On the red vertical line day, zip red is at 75. So it's gone up 0.97 or almost 1 point. Zip gray the day before the red vertical line is 62, and on the red vertical line day, zip gray is 68. So it's gone up 6 points. And so basically you have a condition in which the difference between the red going up, which is 1, and the zip gray going up, which is 6, you have a 6 times difference in the change of the line. And this is what we refer to as diff divergence. And it is indicative of fairly strong movements. It's not always a next day change. Remember, diff divergence can be a stall candle on the following day and then a big candle the second day. And there's lots of cases that show things occurring on the third day. But divergence is a powerful example of what you can see happening inside a system. The conditions that you see are critical. I mean, from the red vertical line day here when it was at $92.25, and then 2 days later it's at $24 even. I mean, that's like $70 it dropped in 2 days. This is really big. But the recognizable conditions are the low peaks. I mean, you obviously you got to have the low angle ups and the low angle downs. You've got to have the divergence, like between swing pink is up and swing Zion is down. You want to have, or excuse me, it is beneficial if you have other divergent situations. Like, for example, when I pointed out the power Zion and the power 4 lines. You also have in between, the high M pattern in trend red is just a little bit higher on the right peak, but it's much higher on the trend green peak. And so it's not necessarily a significant difference when you see all this other information, because all of this stuff is taking place under zero to begin with, and all of your power lines are under zero. And so it's real easy to go down when all your power lines are under zero. But even if you carry it out a few more days, we have Zip Yellow running at, really low. There it's at 0.38. There it's at 0.23. There it's at 0.27. There it's at 0.14. On the day before it goes up, it's at 0.15, and on the day that it finally goes up, it hits 0.94, which is horrible. It's still going to go down. I mean, you need to get Zip Yellow typically starts price value increases when it gets into the 30s. And so if it reaches 34 or 39, obviously it can go down the next day, but once it clears that 30 range, the value of the price seems to go up much more effectively. That's a generic idea there. But those are some of the ideas that I wanted to convey to you on signals that are very low. Because when you can find those signals that are very low, and you identify that with Zip Yellow not even being able to get above 5, and so you just need to wait for the signal to have it go down. Or sometimes you can wait for a green candle as a little bit of a pull-up and then get in for a sell short transaction. So again, amazing indicators. The location that they're in makes a difference. The shapes that they're in makes a difference. The supporting evidence that goes along with them. You only need maybe 2 divergent lines, like swing Zion and swing pink, or maybe red, zip gray. If you have power red and trend red opposite, that doesn't hurt a bit, and so that's what we have, or that's what I've identified in this particular video, and it's just been a whole lot of information, like a high M pattern under zero. It's all very, very low, and when when you find that, I mean, let's face it, this stock went from $92 to $24 in 2 days.